Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Kieran Smith, President of PCG Advisory. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Dr. Brian Poligone, Director of the Rochester Skin Lymphoma Medical Group and Principal Investigator for Soligenix's comparative study evaluating HyBryte against Valkor in the treatment of cutaneous T-cell lymphoma. Soligenix recently announced positive clinical results, and we're excited to have Dr. Poligone here to provide more insight. Thank you for being with us. So let's jump in with some questions. Let's start with a quick background on what CTCL is and who it affects.
So, cutaneous T-cell lymphoma is a rare skin cancer. It's a cancer that presents in the skin. It can present in both men and women. It generally affects people in their 60s, but actually people of any age can get this cancer. You would generally find this rash on non-sun exposed areas, so it has sort of a distribution that's characteristic. And it presents generally as like a red, scaly, and often itchy rash. When allowed to progress, it can progress to tumors and also be found in the blood and in the lymph nodes.
Interesting. Okay, great, thanks. So let's get the second question. Why is there a need for more rapid and safe treatments?
Well, CTCL is an indolent and incurable disease. And so there is often a very slow progression, but also incurability. And this makes it important that if we can put patients into remission, which we can, that's our goal, is to try to get a remission. And so safe treatments that need to be used for a long time because of this indolent and incurable nature of disease are needed. Moreover, because you can have this quality of life issue with this itchy rash, which is clearly can be intolerable at times, requires that we have rapid therapies that are effective.
Great, thanks. And what are the limitations of the current treatments, such as Valkor?
So Valkor is one of our most commonly used drugs currently in the clinic. And it's a topical chemotherapy that you apply once daily. And some patients that use it will react to the drug. So they'll have like a reaction or an allergy and won't tolerate it. Other patients that use it, even some cases for extended periods of time, don't have a response. And so ultimately, because of both, those issues and some others, it can be it's not the only drug we need. We need other drugs that can be used in those cases.
Absolutely. I know you just recently completed the HPN CTCL-04 study, which compared HyBryte and Valkor. Can you give a quick overview of what comparisons were made and your overall clinical impressions of the importance of these findings?
Yeah, so this was a study where we were comparing actually HyBryte to Valkor, and we wanted to look at that comparison. We used standard CTCL clinical trial measurements that would record both the safety as well as the efficacy within those two arms of the treatment. And while we just recently completed this study within the past month, and we're still looking at the data, it's clear that HyBryte had was both safe and effective relative to what we were seeing by the gold standard Valkor. So we're excited about that finding.
Fantastic. And what feedback can you share on the patient experience with HyBryte therapy? How is it being received by KOLs and clinicians as well?
Yeah, so the initial FLASH study, which was the major initial study looking at HyBryte in CTCL, we published in JAMA Dermatology. So that's actually in the literature. And because of that, both patients and clinicians are aware of this drug, particularly when you have this rare cancer, or if you're treating this rare cancer, you're aware of these things. And because in the FLASH 1 study, there was both efficacy and safety of HyBryte, it's becoming more and more known, and there's more and more excitement about getting the drug. So I think from my standpoint as a clinician that sees patients every day with this lymphoma, they're eager to get this drug. They're excited about what they're hearing, as well as because it's been available in my clinic. They have been asking for it, and I think that that's a good finding. Similarly, among colleagues treating patients with lymphoma, there is a lot of eagerness to be able to find out when this will be approved and be available to them outside of a clinical trial setting.
You also recently published another study you conducted with HyBryte, HPN-CTCL02, which helped to further explore and demonstrate the safety profile. Can you share what you feel are the important takeaways from that study?
Sure. So HPN-CTCL02 was a study designed to examine the safety characteristics of HyBryte while also extending our observations in its effect on CTCL. So examining the blood metabolism of HyBryte and the effects on the body, we can further ensure that this topical therapy is safe. Indeed, in this study, we found that there were very low doses of HyBryte in the blood after application, even after patients applied the drug to a significant, large percentage of their body surface area. We saw no effects on the heart, the liver, the kidneys, bone marrow. So the standard safety protocols that we do in the blood testing, we didn't find any effects, and that might be expected because of the low amounts of HyBryte that were found in the blood after application. So we plan to present our findings at the upcoming EORTC CTCL meeting in Switzerland this October.
That's great. So you'll soon be part of the confirmatory FLASH-2 trial. Can you please share your opinion on the likelihood of success in the confirmatory FLASH-2 trial?
Yeah, so we've learned a lot already from FLASH-1, if we call it, and HPN-CTCL02 and 04. So we go into FLASH-2 with a significant amount of data, and really it's sort of an extension of the FLASH-1 study. One difference might be that we're now going to be able to use higher doses of light because of what we've learned and because of the safety, and that should further benefit patients with those. And indeed, we were able to use those higher doses in the 02 and 04 study, so we've already been doing that. But I think recruitment should be strong because, as I had mentioned, the FLASH-1's published, so patients know about it. They come in understanding this. It's not simply a drug that no one's heard of before, and indeed they can look themselves and find out data on this medication. That's always helpful, both for referring providers as well as the patients themselves. And so the other nice thing is, for instance, in my center, where I will be a part of FLASH-2, I have a cohort of patients that either have known about this drug because they've heard about it through clinical trials, maybe not been on it, or even in some cases have already been on the drug. And those patients are very eager to get this drug. I have quite a number of patients who have had responses, are eager to get back on. And so that I think from that standpoint, because that will be allowed, while we'll have a lot of new patients, there will be that eligibility, and that should help with recruitment. So I'm excited about that.
Excellent. Looking ahead, what potential do you see for expanding HyBryte's use beyond CTCL, such as in psoriasis or other dermatological conditions?
Yeah, so, HyBryte is a target of inflammatory and immune cells. And so this gives it potential in both cancer as well as inflammatory disease. We have drugs like that. So, if you think about it, there's like topical steroids, there's methotrexate, and those drugs can be used in a wide range of diseases. CTCL is one of them, but also in psoriasis, in atopic dermatitis, and eczema. And so, and even beyond, many other inflammatory conditions. So when we think about that and we think we have a novel drug that's going to also be able to target those cells, I think there's a lot of broad applicability. More importantly, when you start to bring in then the safety profile and you think of, well, will it be safe for this group or that? You start to be encouraged by the initial findings that this should have broad applicability. And so that while we need to get to the finish line in CTCL and get approval, ultimately, once we have that victory, it's going to just sort of open things up and allow us to, I know in my clinic we'll be using it for many different things because there's that need, and we've been really excited about the safety so far.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Poligone. That was really an interesting discussion. Thank you again for joining us. For more information and to stay up to date on current news on Soligenix, please visit soligenix.com, and you can always feel free to email me at ksmith@pcgadvisory.com. With that, we'll say goodbye. Dr. Poligone, thank you again.
Nice to be here today. Goodbye.